staple red side bans that we've seen, both still open, and with Zilean banned out by Team Liquid, that means at least one of those two champs will go through this time around. Do you just leave both up, let them take one, grab the other one? Do you ban out one? OpTic has some choices to make.
You have to believe if you leave the Cassiopeia up, Jensen will probably take that, and then what do you get in return? Akali and Ezreal? Well, they're going to try to do that, and they aren't even going to get Akali.
Not Akali. Cassiopeia lock going to be almost instant there for Team Liquid.
Yeah, that champion is incredibly strong. People, ever since they started maxing the Q, the Noxious Blast, it's been one that's kind of just run away with the W max second. And so it's been banned even since 9.1, 9.2, highest presence banned champion in the game across all regions, and it slips here to Team Liquid's hands, the undefeated team in the LCS.
Well, we're going to see the Sion picked up for OpTic. Also seeing the Ezreal hover here, would not be surprised at all to see that locked in. Picking up that S-tier 80 carry, getting the remaining S-tier tank like I mentioned last game. Yes, you're giving up Cassio, but at least you're getting a couple value picks in return.
And I want to see what happens here with the Ezreal, because remember, DoubleLift said, I thought that Bang was going to play Ezreal instead of Victor. I thought that I would have to bring out a special pick against him. Now, if the special pick was just Draven, that's boring. We had already seen that.
Yeah.
Is this where DoubleLift has something else up his sleeve to play into it? It potentially, maybe even is a Cassio bot lane.
See how they decide to go about it. Team Liquid deciding what they want, and they'll pick the Urgot into the Sion. Now, last time around, we did not see the Urgot do too well into the Sion matchup. Maybe things will change here in this one. Alistar going to be the final pick of the first half of the draft here for Team Liquid. CoreJJ will be on that playmaker.
So CoreJJ on something that has a lot of engage potential. The Braum plus the Ezreal is what you would expect here. The Q being able to just stack up the concussive blows makes it a very good duo to have. A lot of lane pressure and able to actually take over level 1s too. So kind of a no-brainer there for what you would take. And Big, his specialty has always been protection, right? Protecting people, shot calling from the back line, and having that Braum be one of his better champions. It's good to see him back on it, and we'll see if he's able to go up against the former world champion in CoreJJ.
Well, the front line for OpTic Gaming is looking pretty good so far. You've got a Braum, you've got a Sion. Both will do a great job of being a brick wall between your Ezreal and the enemy team, but the problem is Cassiopeia is an insanely strong sustained damage champion. It's not like she just blows all of her damage as a front-loaded burst, and then it's like, okay, she's out of gas for a while. It's constant, never ending, and that's a serious threat to these frontliners, especially if, like you look last game, what was the Sion able to do? Licorice stacked a ton of armor, didn't really have to worry about burst damage from Demonte because you have 1,200 free HP from your W.
Yeah.
But going up against the Cassio could be a very different story. Taking a look at the bans here, it's Vayne and Kai'Sa, banned out by OpTic Gaming. Team Liquid getting rid of the Zoe and the Vel'Koz.
Yeah, now you probably pick your jungler for Meteos. You go with the Gragas, or you go for something like the Camille, but I think the Gragas is best here because of the fact they lack magic damage. Ezreal is hybrid, but it frees you up to later in the draft. You can maybe pick an AD for your mid laner, right?
If you need to.
Yeah, so it gives you that kind of pivot ability. These last few bans are very interesting, though. The Kai'Sa, the Vayne banned away. That thing had popped up after Hail of Blades, plus having the Rage Blade as your second item.
Plus Final Hour buff.
Yeah, that was a really big one, to being able to just tumble and become invisible over and over again. And okay, all right, that's not special.
That's,
you know.
Yep. Womp, womp. But it will be Sivir, picked up for DoubleLift and Team Liquid. And DoubleLift is the kind of guy that can put the team on his back. Sivir is the kind of champion that allows you to play just that way.
Yep, allows him to just speed up the Cassiopeia too, so this may become a bit of the Jensen show, but there's a lot of scaling here for Team Liquid. They're looking for that mid-late game, and Xmithie, he's played Lee Sin, and this will be his third played champion here in 6 games. He played the Gragas one time yesterday. Seems like week 3 is a bit of a departure from the Lee Sin.
2 weeks straight of Lee into no Lee at all. Let's see how the KhaZix works out for him. One more pick for OpTic Gaming. What do you play in the mid lane now against Jensen's Cassiopeia? And it looks like the answer is going to be that Syndra.
Yep, the Syndra just has that extra reach. Sometimes you'll go for the Orianna, but you can be chased down now with the Noxious Blast being maxed first. And the Syndra will be able to potentially blow her up early. I'm surprised. I was expecting maybe a Galio, but it has a losing matchup if you want to play elsewhere. So they're going for the Syndra for the extended engage, for the long range here. Both teams actually look pretty good in the scaling department. Team Liquid has more with their carries, but the tankiness that OpTic Gaming will have later is definitely something that needs to be worried about.
And remember, this is only the second time this split, the first time being yesterday, that we get to see the full starting OpTic Gaming roster play. And this is quite a trial by fire for them to have to play through, being Team Liquid.
Well, it's actually just kind of a trial by ice into fire because they played against Golden Guardians, the winless team yesterday, the dead last 10th place team, and they lost. And now immediately the fire is turned on, the ice melts, and they go, okay, it's time to play against the #1 team all the way across the standings from where they just lost to.
Quite a difference. We'll see if these guys can bounce back and do what no one else has been able to do so far and deal with Liquid. But Liquid is just a scary team. We saw when they played against FlyQuest, who were the second best team, solely in possession of that rank at the time, that although FlyQuest was able to go pretty even with them for a while, as soon as Team Liquid was able to find a team fight where their individual player talents could get them an edge, they quickly turned it into a Baron, they quickly turned that into a win, and honestly, that lethality of taking an advantage and just ending the game with it is one of Liquid's specialties right now.
It has been one of the scariest things about them in this split since they upgraded in positions like CoreJJ and bringing Jensen in. This team has looked rather unstoppable. The closest that it got was yesterday versus FlyQuest, but since then, it's just been something where they are steamrolling the LCS, and the question is, who's going to stop them?
We're on to Summoner's Rift to see if maybe it's OpTic. Nobody going too crazy at the start. Again, lines of scrimmage, the typical pattern you're going to see. Everybody just waiting, holding tight. You can see the keystones showing up on the side of your screen now. Doesn't look like we're seeing anything too out of the ordinary.
The only thing is that Big went with Guardian for the lane phase as opposed to going for a spellbook where he could just kind of swap things around. Oh, and Dhokla with the hit there onto Xmithie and Impact.
All right, it says, get out of my jungle.
Yep,
This is my jungle, not yours.
The Ghost Poro.
Go away. And as we're waiting for the teams to get ready for minions to spawn, a quick reminder that both of OpTic supports, Big and Gate, will be joining Freak on the LCS cooldown later today. So make sure you're tweeting at LOL Esports with any questions you have for the supportive pair, and we'll see if we can get those answered on air.
I heard there might be some 1v1s happening there too, so.
Okay, well, last time Freak lost a Riven 1v1, and that's pretty exciting.
I don't think
you get to see high mechanical intense outplays. But I don't know what a Braum 1v1 would look like. I'm going to stack my concussive blows on you.
Yeah, I think it's they'll be playing against each other. So Freak won't be involved in this one. So no more inting, which is exactly what he did last time.
No more inting, just winting.
That's what I like to say when it goes pretty south pretty quickly. And they're actually just swapping red buffs here, both spotted by the other side. But this means that OpTic will have more pressure on the bottom side of the map, the side that has DoubleLift and CoreJJ, which everybody, when they look at Team Liquid, even last year, they were going, you have to watch the bottom side. Jensen is now the pivot, and hold on, there's a stack up on the DoubleLift.
Nice proc there. Arrow making sure that he gets the bonus damage from getting that fourth hit. DoubleLift will eat another Mystic shot there. Good job from OpTic, just taking a little bit of a laning advantage here early on.
I remember Arrow was always best at those poke champions, the Varus as well as the Jhin. That's when he got MVP back in spring. I think that was 2016 where he got that.
It's kind of the opposite of what we were talking about last game with Piglet, whereas Piglet was always on the auto attackers, the hyper carry. OpTic now trying to zone Team Liquid further away. They do hit level 2, but can't really do a whole lot else with it. Still good accuracy coming in from Arrow here.
Yeah, good accuracy from Arrow as well as Big, landing those concussive blows, landing those Winter's Bites. That's one that's just right up and out of that.
DoubleLift still only level 1, doesn't have the spell shield to be able to block any of that just yet. Top side, it's Xmithie. We're going to maybe make a play here after stealing away some of those Krugs. Level 3 on the KhaZix, so he does have the leap available, jumps over the wall, and heads towards Scuttlecrab Town.
He was a 2017 MVP for spring for Arrow, so 2 years ago. Man, it's
been a hot minute.
Feels like so long ago that I'm like, yeah, it was 3 years ago.
That's when I started, 2017 spring. Throwback.
But now it just feels like you've been here forever.
I know, I'm an ornament on the wall, an antique. That cannon minion's going to be picked up there. Team Liquid trying to just farm up. They're down in CS, but of course when you've got 8 standing minions, that's going to even out for itself. Something to always consider when you see a larger than normal CS discrepancy in the lane is always look at exactly how many minions have left to be farmed. As OpTic does have themselves about a 500 gold lead this early on in the game over Team Liquid, just because of the fact that they're winning as hard as they are in the bottom lane.
Yeah, and those Kleptomancies, I've been watching them. I'm like, he is not getting any items. He is just getting straight up gold every single time. He is not getting anything.
Bag of gold, bag of gold, bag of gold.
He's just walking straight to the bank with that. It feels a little bad because you do want a red pot very early in the first 3 levels. You would really like to have that because it gives you so much in terms of just extra damage on your poke. So he's up about 150 gold just in that lane. And then I think it's looked like it was kind of spread out there from the top lane and then a little bit on the support too. But yeah, it's just top lane. Xmithie is a bit ahead in the jungle, but Dhokla on the top side taking a decent amount of damage there in this matchup that we just saw go the other way last game.
Yeah, this matchup definitely seems to be skewed back towards where you would expect it to be this time around. Impact, of course, being just a staple in the top lane for so long here in NALCS, being one of the players who...
They know he doesn't have Spell Shield. If Big can hit this, he just decides to pop him.
Oh, DoubleLift doing a good job getting away from that one. If Big would have found that third hit.
Yeah, that's one where DoubleLift is just going, I have to dodge this Q or else I am dead. Because CoreJJ roamed up, Big saw him roam up, and then DoubleLift had shoved the wave just a little bit further than he should have.
DoubleLift throwing out the spell shield there, doesn't end up tanking anything with it. OpTic, keep your eyes on this bottom lane, man. These guys seem to just be itching for a chance to go in.
Yeah, Arrow low on mana though, so the poke won't be able to keep up unless he starts fishing and getting some mana potions here.
Just farming up with the basic attacks, waiting for it. Good job there from DoubleLift. Nice evade from Arrow, getting out of the way of the headbutt so CoreJJ can't follow up and catch him out.
And this just becomes a push back and forth here, and the jungle is now back kind of normalized, I would say, because you split the buffs at the start, and then when the second round of Raptors comes up and the second round of Krugs comes up, you kind of
Just
go for your own. You go back and start having the, not vertical jungling, but just regular jungling.
Naturally transitions away from that because it just becomes too risky to keep invading your opponent over and over again, especially when they can predict it.
Yeah.
Much easier to make that happen. As you can see in the mid lane, CS lead showing up for Crown here early on against Jensen, using that Syndra, utilizing the range to make sure that he just has that slight edge over his opponent early on.
Yeah, I think he got helped out by Meteos with a Predator boot gank early, which sent Jensen kind of back in a situation where, Meteos, though, getting hit by Xmithie and CoreJJ.
Xmithie doing a good job making sure that he positions the jump slightly in front of Meteos so the body slam can't be used to get away.
They have to do Dragon here because Impact blew his teleport. You have to make this worth it. And right now, Dhokla used his TP to go topside, so Dhokla can't answer this unless he's going to roam down and just kind of turn into a train. And no, he's just going to go for a plate potentially here.
Good pickup there from Team Liquid. Grabbing themselves a very early first Drake. This could be one of those games you see 5-6 elemental Drakes over the course of it because that first one went down so rapidly. Nice bonus for these guys early on. And look at the comp. It's Cassio, it's Sivir, it's KhaZix, it's Urgot. That's all great Infernal Drake champions.
Yeah, and they're going to have a second Infernal Drake coming up here as the next one. If OpTic get it, then they can equalize it. But remember, those first Drakes are kind of front-loaded now. The first one is worth a little bit more, and you want to equalize them. So if you go 1-1 in Drakes, it's not that big of a deal. But a discrepancy of 1-0 in Drakes is absolutely huge for the stats that it gives.
Also makes the garage sale feel a little bit better if you get a bunch of different ones. Whereas previously that just felt really bad. You would rather have the same thing stacked over and over again. Not quite as much of a feels bad these days, but it is going to be second Infernal.
Yep.
So
yeah, for
the
context,
garage sale's not relevant at this point.
For context, for Infernal Drake, it's 10%, then it's 17, then it's 24. So it's 10 for the first one, then 7 and 7 after that. Whereas before, I believe it was 8, 8, 8. So
yes.
8, 16, 24. So this is 2% better than it was before.
11.5 to 11.9 thousand gold. Still a decent little lead here for OpTic early on. Jensen, nice Petrifying Gaze there onto Crown to stop him from looking for anything else. Jensen is completely out of mana here, though. We'll be healing that up a little bit with the Corrupting Potion.
Oh, Xmithie
Meteos still hovering around the mid lane. Xmithie's 6. Meteos just now hitting it. Knows he can go after this. Goes for the Predator. Into the body slam. It's not going to find anybody, but there's the barrel. Jensen is knocked forward. Crown looking to go for the damage. Gets the stun into the ulti, but now Crown has to try to get himself away. Xmithie showing up. The cavalry has arrived. Neither side going to find a kill just yet, although summoner spells have been used. Big shows up as the ward is dropped here in the mid lane. True shot barrage! Wow, nearly get him! Good body block there from Xmithie. Big almost cleans it up.
Yeah, he knew that Jensen had to go up and around the turret based on his position, so Xmithie, Jake, having to block that for him. So he puts himself out there, and it's kind of an easy block. Now, roaming towards the bottom side with Meteos. See if they're able to get anything done, because DoubleLift is far up, but CoreJJ is protecting him, and that's a popped ultimate just out of fear.
Okay, DoubleLift just being sure.
I mean, he knows he has a target on his back based off the draft and based off of the fact that they were kind of playing to the bottom side with their jungler early. So better safe than sorry for him. But he has seemed a little jumpy. That was used. I remember the spell shield earlier that almost got him killed because he E'd an Ezreal W, which,
yeah,
when you do that, the Braum's going to walk up and try to put concussive blows on you.
OpTic Gaming now still having that nice little bit of a gold lead for themselves. They're still all right. They're stacking up the tier on their Ezreal. Their Syndra's winning in the mid lane in terms of farm, and that lead is only getting bigger. It's almost up to 20 at this point. And again, it's not just Crown versus Jensen. It's the fact that OpTic is looking to help their mid lane. And we're saying, hey, we know you want revenge for this. Let us help you out here.
Yeah, and he's pretty close to getting it too, because both the summoner spells on both of them are down. The junglers, this is the prime time to go. And DoubleLift actually gets solo gold on that first plate against Arrow, who was doing so well in the early part of the game, but now it's just kind of fallen off. Despite DoubleLift having to use the summoner spell early, just equals the farm, makes sure that he has the BF sword, and it's also been Big roaming around a lot. If you look at the map right now, you're like, where's Big? Well, he's topside. He's ditched him.
Just making his way around, cleaning out some wards. Plates are tied up 1-1 right now. Remember, the plating will fall 14 minutes in, so about 4 more minutes for teams to make the most out of that. DoubleLift continuing to put in work on this bottom side. Knowing that Big has roamed, the addition of turret plating kind of adds that new element to when your support roams and not, because it does mean your opponents will get more gold chipping away at plates by shoving those wings in.
This might be a really great gank here if they wrap around Meteos, Crown, Big, everybody in attendance. There are no wards on the bottom side here.
Oh, it could be a party.
But the back there from DoubleLift as well as CoreJJ means that they're actually going to be gone before they even get there.
Liquid did a good job of recognizing, hey, something doesn't feel right here. Nobody's on the map. We need to get back. Because where else are they going to go? Right? When you look at your top lane, he's shoved into his turret. They're not going to try to make a play onto him. Your jungler and your mid laner are pushed back as well. There's only one place OpTic would be looking at that point in time, and DoubleLift makes sure him and his support get out.
And he gets the Storm Razor too, so it's a perfect back timer for him. Whereas on the opposite side, Arrow could back and get a tier, but it's not going to power him up that much. He needs to kind of return these plates and pick them up for some extra gold. He does have an advantage of about.
He does already have them.
Now.
He already has the Mana Moon. I think he would get the Sheen.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, the Sheen. He's looking for like 1,000 or 300 more, which is exactly what he was looking for there. He wanted that extra plate, so now he's sitting on 1050 after picking up the plate and a little bit more. Thank you.
See some damage that came down into the mid lane onto Xmithie there, who gets himself away on this KhaZix. One thing I do want to check in on is, yes, he did go for the evolved cloaking on the KhaZix first evolution. A lot of times you'll see that actually becoming more and more popular these days. Junglers will be opting for that because they want the extra ability to weave in and out of the team fights, juke people back and forth. Especially in competitive, you're not seeing them get as much use out of the evolved claws and the ISO damage.
Yeah, and it's more of like the W utility and all that.
Cooldown,
yeah, it's the cooldown, but hold on bottom side. If Arrow gets in here, that's a great knockup.
CoreJJ's ultimate has already been expended, but DoubleLift does a good job scaring Arrow back away. CoreJJ still taken very low, and First Blood goes over to OpTic Gaming. Good play on the bottom side.
It goes over to Big, which is not the person that you want, but that was a great collapse there from OpTic. They have been focusing the bottom side. The Infernal Drake is live. This is exactly what you wanted to even that up. They forced that, and they get everything out of CoreJJ.
And this also means Infernal Drake #2 doesn't continue to compound a lead for Liquid, but instead will equalize things out for OpTic, barring some sort of a crazy steal, which should not happen. They seem to have complete control over the entire area.
Killed him.
Crown grabs a kill onto Xmithie. We'll go back and show you all that in a moment. Dhokla looking to make the solo kill happen onto Impact. Won't quite be able to get it. Flash away keeps Impact alive, but OpTic is finding wins, and more wins on the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, and honestly, because of the fact that Crown has so much priority in mid, he's 20 CS up right now over Jensen. He's able to just use this Syndra to invade the jungle. And while they were doing the Drake, he just checks the back of it, says, make sure there's nothing to happen there. So they're winning the mid because of Crown. They're winning the bottom lane because of the team. And then Dhokla was winning the top side by himself. Let's see this one more time. Oh, stunted there. So CoreJJ went for a headbutt. It gets stunted there by Meteos. And then right there, it was the knockup and the Gragas cask at the same time that put CoreJJ so far away and knocked him towards the team, making him flash forward. Right here, even before that, yeah, he didn't even see him. He had no chance there because that ward on the back side of the red buff, he just took him to Crown Town.
Great job there from Crown, making sure that he pops the bug before he can slip into that evolved cloaking. Doesn't matter if you can cast it 2 or 3 times if you're dead before you get to use it on the first one. Good stuff coming out from OpTic here so far. This team pulling 1,000 gold ahead of the current #1 squad of this team of guys that we're looking at and saying, well, where's the weakness? How do you beat Team Liquid? OpTic is finding ways to pull ahead, at least in the early game.
There is nothing more Team Liquid than them looking great and then losing in a match where you'd be like, wait, I thought they were going to steamroll it. It happened.
Didn't they have a losing record against Golden Guardians last year when Golden Guardians finished back-to-back 10th?
Yeah, it happens. It happens to Team Liquid. It just seems to be when the hopes get really high and all the hype is kind of building around them, something will happen to deflate it, and it's becoming kind of the Liquid thing where maybe they're overlooking some opponents, or their opponents go, well, your strategy looks pretty straightforward, and they're focusing the bottom side. They were able to counterpick the mid lane, and it hasn't really been any winning part of the map here for Team Liquid.
But we can't get too far ahead of ourselves just yet. It is a 1,000 gold lead, but it is only 14 minutes into the game. There's still a lot of League of Legends left to play here.
Crown wants to get Jensen here.
This is the question I always ask. When you see a team that's lower in the standings go up against a team that's higher in the standings, and I feel like this is true for any region, not just in A, what you expect is for the lead to need to be bigger before you're truly convinced, right? If you're watching high-ranked team versus low-ranked team, high-ranked team is ahead, you see 1,000 gold lead, you're thinking, oh, okay, this is going to go somewhere. Lower-ranked team gets ahead, you want to see more before you're really convinced they can translate that into the win. But now mid-lane, fight's breaking out. Liquid looking to strike back, almost able to find the kill onto Meteos, who drops a very nice cast. Jensen taken low, Meteos still going to be kept alive. Dhokla looking to find the finisher on the Team Liquid mid laner, won't be able to grab it. DoubleLift grabbing the kill onto Meteos. But now, has Team Liquid gone too far? CoreJJ is going to be taken low. More damage coming out from both sides. Crown barely getting himself away as DoubleLift will be taken down. An arrow through the heart, and that's the damage OpTic needed.
And that was a team fight all over the place, but it ends up being so close. Everybody is limping away with just barely anything in the health bar tank, except for Arrow, who shows up a little bit later to that one. That fight is just coming down to those mechanical little errors that happen, but the outplays too. You'll see here that CoreJJ does a good job of staying alive. You see Crown is stacking that up. He wants to get in on Jensen. Meteos, great step backwards. CoreJJ gets in with the interrupt. Now he can't do anything like flash away because he's grounded. Meteos gets the heal. Then he pops Jensen in. Jensen now has to go to the top side towards impact. Meteos flashes away from the ultimate, which forces DoubleLift to flash, which means that when he tries to re-engage this fight here, Arrow sees it after that right side of the fight is taken care of, and then he's able to just pop him up here. So DoubleLift blocking for CoreJJ. It goes a little too far, and he gets taken out there by Arrow.
There were so many health bars so low, and it ends up just being 1-for-1, which is pretty crazy considering how close so many people got. You saw Crown and Meteos both down below about 100 HP. Impact was very, very much in danger as well, as DoubleLift will now continue shoving up into the bottom lane here. Remember, no turrets have been taken yet, plating is gone, and first turret money is up for grabs. Very easy for Liquid to potentially take that one down here. Dhokla will not be able to hold the line any longer, and that means this game is closer than ever, as DoubleLift will continue looking to run down his opponent in that enemy top laner as OpTic answers the turret take topside.
Yep, but Meteos, he's going to get that Rift Herald here. He's going to be able to use it on mid. He just pops the Predator boots, looks, searches, and he's just going to run to the opposite side of the map here and see if he can actually stop them from going for his blue buff, stop them from going for the bottom side of the map. See, he's even just kind of hesitant to walk around here. He's just checking for things.
Very respectful. Meteos back in LCS after not playing in the first couple weeks. Again, that was part of the roster swap that occurred because Arrow wasn't here yet. You can see the next Drake also about to spawn. Team Liquid, there's a reason all 5 members are in this southern part of the river. Everybody's preparing. They want to make sure they have priority over the area. But OpTic is saying, okay, if you want to control that area, we're going to control just to the left over here. Summon up Shelly, create some pressure. Dhokla finding himself in a fight against Xmithie, loses some HP on that one.
Yeah, they have the
Shelly
inside
summoned
track.
up.
It's just a big inside track here for OpTic, who are just keeping them out. And the wave clear took forever there for Impact because he's not that wave clear champion. So they're going to get a lot of damage onto this turret. Arrow is just kind of making sure he doesn't get caught out here on the left side.
A lot, but not enough to bring it down critically for the side of Team Liquid. Still having that turret standing. They're able to defend this area for now. Still have that to fall back to. CoreJJ off to the side.
This is where things get scary. That last fight, so many people limped away with low HP. This fight, if something happens, there's a lot of flashes that aren't up here. Jensen's, DoubleLifts aren't up. Primary targets, and on the opposite
for
side,
OpTic.
Crown and Meteos, right? They used a lot of their kind of secondary summoner spells too, and so they're waiting for it. Xmithie
Watch
gonna try to get in.
Wants to go over the wall. He's known for his smites, but it is secured by Meteos. Good job there, making sure they lock that one down.
Yeah, Meteos coming in, and that was something where they were banking on Xmithie to potentially steal it, because DoubleLift goes to the top side to try and equalize turrets, and they trade the Dragon for this pressure, and they're trying to go towards mid.
Oh, Jensen barely getting himself away from Dhokla there. True shot barrage over the wall, looking to add in some more damage. CoreJJ has to try to get himself away. Big goes in with a big glacial fissure, and CoreJJ and Jensen are thrown up into the air. The damage comes through. The cask, unfortunately for OpTic, will catapult Jensen to safety, but they'll still take mid-tier 1, and they'll still take CoreJJ.
Yeah, but that's DoubleLift on the top side, getting that top turret, and then it's pressure on the bottom side for Impact, who will start getting a CS lead for himself, and also picking up some buffs to boot. But honestly, for OpTic, that's exactly what you want. You want to get those summoner spells out of the guys on the other team, and then you want to have Big making plays like that when he's coming back into the roster.
You said this guy's known for protection, but sometimes he can go in and make the big play there too. Exactly what you like to see out of your Braum. As Crown will move through his own jungle, not aware that he's in a spot that might be pretty dangerous to be. Impact coming up behind him, looking to make the moves. Crown wants to try to survive this one, but he's very low. He does not have any way out. The flash was not available yet, and Team Liquid find themselves a very nice pickup that should lead to a tier 1 take here in the mid lane, bring them up to a turret advantage 3-2. And now OpTic has to make sure they're not making any more mistakes like that when Team Liquid has taken the lead.
Exactly, and that's that X factor that Impact brings to the table. He went, pushed up that bottom side of the map, looked like he had backed, it looked like he was gone, and then he just rotated around, and Meteos almost dropping there, but like I'm saying with Impact, he rotated around. He went this really clever route and kind of got in Crown's head about what would he do next, and is able to catch him out there with no flash.
Also want to point out, because Xmithie is now level 11, the second evolution is online, did go for the Void Spikes, which provides much more team fight utility to the champion. Typically Assassins, they always want to sit on the outskirts of the fight, find a flank, find the opportunity to mop up, but this gives KhaZix an ability to contribute in poke wars, be grouped up with the team, and still have something to do other than just go, well, I can't jump in or I'll die.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting what the evolution does. It's the one that makes it so he shoots out 3 instead of 1, and it will 60% slow for 2 seconds. But if somebody's isolated, it's a 90% slow for 2 seconds. And a lot of the times, because it's kind of tri-pointed, you will at least 90% slow one person, even if you're just shooting it at a big team.
Very scary upgrade to have on him. We'll see how that plays out for Team Liquid moving forward here. Items coming online across the board. You're at 2.5 items there for DoubleLift. If you look over to Arrow, he's got the Iceborne, he's got the Muramana fully completed. Working on that second tier, 150 out of 750 on that stack, so late 20s, we'll see that one fully completed too. Luden's Echoes in the mid laners means the damage is definitely going to be there. Should someone find themselves caught out, and Impact will just continue being this nuisance in the side lane with the Black Cleaver on the Urgot to shred through some of that armor. But Dhokla's not too afraid of him here just yet.
No, not too afraid, just stacking the armor now. The thing he's afraid of is if he has to get involved in a team fight where Jensen's there. Impact gonna shred the armor there with the Purge. And everybody's kind of focused on that top side of the map. The gold is very close, and it could come down to a Baron or a fight around it. But Xmithie getting the inside track there, Meteos. Shoo the bug away.
But remember what we were talking about with Liquid and their game against FlyQuest yesterday. It was a very close game for a very long while early on. FlyQuest even had some moments where they outdid Team Liquid, but when it came down to those mid-game team fights where Liquid's individual talent was really able to shine and showcase the caliber of players on this team, that's where they found their lead. And once they found it, it was just pedal to the metal ending the game.
Yep, and with this 800 gold lead, is that where you go, okay, that's enough? I don't believe so. I feel like OpTic have a lot to say in this game, especially with Crown in the position he is. Jensen has made up that CS, though.
Just slowing Rockets, only going to find the reduced slow because Arrow was close enough to his ally.
Where they want to engage.
But DoubleLift's already on the side. He's able to find some auto attacks down on Meteos. Big looking to disengage, drops the Glacial Fissure, getting himself back. Unbreakable thrown up, making sure the damage is not going to be too much in chase from Team Liquid. True Shot Barrage fired off, not going to find anyone just yet. Xmithie barely getting himself out of there with the ulti so he doesn't draw any more aggro.
Just a trade in pressure because Crown was on the top side picking up some CS. Meanwhile, Impact is on the bottom side, but he has teleport. And there's Dhokla going.
Oh, Dhokla decides it's time to go. He's not going to find anybody with a CC. TP also going to be coming in now from Impact. Liquid looking to fight this one. Dhokla off the side, taken down to about half HP. Impact going to be wasting the time, baiting everybody else in. Dhokla barely stumbling away from this one. He's going to be kept alive for now, but the counterattack is there. Team Liquid's coming in. They're able to find the fear onto 2, and the kills are coming out as well. That's the shutdown onto that enemy support, and Team Liquid will find themselves a couple of kills. CoreJJ taking a lot of damage from Arrow on the back end of this fight. Impact looking to continue things here as Meteos wants to buy some time for his AD carry. DoubleLift goes over the wall with the flash. He will force the flash from Arrow in return. And Team Liquid will still maintain control. They will push up the mid lane, and the gold lead builds.
And honestly, Impact has done so much for them in this game. That catch on the crown earlier, this fight here where Jensen flashes forward and then he has the ultimate to back him up. Team Liquid are back in this game off the coordination and just seeing a slight weakness. Dhokla tries to ulti here. He didn't get the slow with the E. They dodge him, and then he has to back up. He gets headbutted out, and then the TP comes through. Yes, Meteos hits the ultimate, doesn't get the person he really wants in, and then Dhokla is just being chunked down. Remember, I talked about it. He built only armor so far. The flash forward, the ultimate, he has to just use the Zonias, and then Impact reels in big, flashes forward, and then he gets the fear on the crown to pick that one up too.
And this ties in with what I was talking about earlier. When you watch the team that's at the top of the standings in a league, less means more. Just them picking up a kill here or an objective there can translate into much greater leads than it would mean if you saw some other team getting the same thing, because they know how to use it. Liquid is now 3,000 gold ahead. Look at the damage being put down in these fights by Jensen, 2,800 in the last one. This Cassiopeia is banned very often for very good reason.
And he's not even going for something like a scaling build. He's got the Banshees to be able to protect himself, and he's got the Ludens.
Oh, here comes the pincer attack. It's CoreJJ from behind. Dokla's gonna look to frontline for this one as Crown's gonna be shoved back into the team. DoubleLift's grabbing a kill onto him immediately. It's 2 dead for OpTic, and Team Liquid, in the same way they did FlyQuest yesterday, will take over the mid-game fights. Beautiful interrupt on the Sion ulti coming out from Xmithie. He knows how to stop this. He knows how to shut it down, and Team Liquid knows it's time for Baron.
And Meteos, he's kind of the last hope here, but you would expect that CoreJJ, he's going to be on interruption duty. Arrow wants to get the poke down, wants to try to get that ultimate back up. They want to deal whatever damage they can. Ezreal, very strong in these poke situations.
Ezreal trying to run interference, but the Baron is down to about 5k. Meteos full HP, looks for the opportunity to get in there. Team Liquid do not want to make the mistake and throw the Baron away here. Meteos continuing to try to find an avenue into the pit. He has to go now, but a beautiful, beautiful miasma will stop him from body slamming over the wall. It will ground him into the river, and they will grind him into pieces as they grab the Baron and the kill. Arrow just gets a shot in the butt right at the end there from a projectile to make sure that he's not going to be able to do anything, and Team Liquid peace out.
Oh, DoubleLift actually greeting for it. Not going to be able to reach it.
Unlucky.
But like you said, the miasma there, perfectly placed. Stops the flash, stops the body slam, stops everything. CoreJJ on the flank here says, nothing personal. I know after all this time, we had 2 World Championship, finals appearances, but
we were buddies.
You gotta go, man. Now you're an enemy. Headbutts him into the team. The flank was great. Xmithie with the interrupt there to get right in front of Dhokla means that is just a quick 3 for 0.
In the same way they beat FlyQuest, they're now beating OpTic. The game stays close, but as soon as you give them an inch, they take a mile. And Liquid now has Baron for the next 2.5 minutes. 7,000 gold up, and as I've said before, I want to see teams to really stand out, being great instead of just good in the game. Take a lead and just be swift about it. If they can end this game with a Baron, that's making a statement.
Oh yeah, and it would be sub 30 minutes as well in a game that was even up until about 2 minutes ago. That would be absolutely insane, because that means that they just took a small advantage, like you're saying, and they just ballooned it to a victory. And that's the scary part of the Team Liquid squad that we're seeing in 2019, because people were used to saying, oh yeah, if you deal with DoubleLift, what else do they have? Well, they have Xmithie, they do have Impact, and they have maybe Pole Belter a bit, but now it's like, if you deal with DoubleLift, you gotta deal with Jensen. You gotta deal with Xmithie on this carry too, but you also gotta deal with Impact, who's providing split push pressure now, and he has more freedom to do so with so many other threats on the team. And then you can't forget about CoreJJ, who's throwing his body in front of skill shots left and right to save people.
CoreJJ, honestly, the guy who made everything happen in that last team fight, came around from behind, started everything off, found the initiation onto that enemy mid laner. And Alistar, I like seeing this champion because it lets supports make those highlight reel moments that sometimes you don't get to see on other champions. And CoreJJ is showing exactly how to play support here this game. Team Liquid pressuring 4-1 split, Xmithie in the bottom lane, everybody else here at mid. Mid lane, tier 3 turret, very low. Likely going to be knocked down soon here as Impact heads up into the top side, clears out that minion wave, provides another point of pressure and just something else that OpTic has to think about answering. Next minion wave is coming up here in the mid lane. You're likely going to see Team Liquid try to brute force this turret down with that one. Yep. Impact pops the Righteous Glory. That's the sign for OpTic to get the hell away, even though it means sacrificing the turret. It's not a fight you want to take. Impact gets himself stunned up, but Team Liquid continuing to put auto attacks into the inhibitor. Not really too worried about anything just yet. DoubleLift knows he's safe. He's got teammates nearby. It doesn't matter if he could be hit by something. Nice spell shield there on the Scatter the Weak means Crown's not able to stun him up. Dhokla continues just soaking damage in the bottom side here from Xmithie, who's honestly putting quite a lot of work in on him. Because he has the Black Cleaver, he can shred through a lot of this armor, and Xmithie will force Dhokla away and continue to put damage into the second tier 3 turret. That third one still standing with about half HP in the top side, but Liquid will remedy that quickly themselves as OpTic just struggles to find where to rotate to have any kind of an answer. They're too far behind Zirene.
Yeah, their wave clear is just pretty abysmal as the Baron buff wears off, and now Crown will be able to maybe clear out those minions a little bit faster. And really, we're looking at these score lines. There's that turret going down too. There's just that last inhibitor turret on the top side that they have to worry about.
And considering it would be the mid and bottom inhibitors that are vulnerable or destroyed, that just means the next time Baron spawns, it's that much harder for OpTic to try to answer it, to try to stop Team Liquid. And at this point, you're practically depending on a Team Liquid mistake, which you can tell that Jensen isn't betting on happening because of Medjai's Soul Stealer.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, and he can do that too, because what happened in the early game was he got picked on, but he never died. You saw how many people were in his lane. He's like, I'm going to take, a CS deficit here. Xmithie blocks that one Q that maybe would have killed him, but Jensen was able to just slither away from so many ganks. And then when it started to come Crown's way, Crown is now 1-3-2, barely ahead in CS, if you can call it that a lead at all. And we're looking at Jensen having more of a team play and sacrificing his lane for a bit.
Absorbing pressure is so huge. That's one of the things you always see Faker get applauded for, and why whenever somebody brings up the question, why is Faker the GOAT when it comes to mid laners? Why is this man just recognized in the Hall of Fame? And one thing people always talk about is how much he absorbs the pressure. How much you can try to camp him and it will not even matter. And this time around, Impact's the one who's finding himself being targeted. CoreJJ, now the backup target. DoubleLift coming in from the side. OpTic has started the fight, but it's on to the tanky members of Team Liquid, and here's what happens when that's the call. DoubleLift is completely unthreatened. He's finding multiple auto attacks onto multiple people.
Jensen!
And there goes Jensen! There goes OpTic! See you later, as Team Liquid has found so many kills for themselves. A double for Xmithie. OpTic is destroyed, and 31 minutes into the game, Liquid is on to the Nexus turrets.
31 minutes after that, this game is encapsulated by that gif of the limping dog who gets up and goes,
"Nope, I'm fine. I'm fine." Team Liquid is not worried about it. They'll clean up Dhokla there at the very end for the ace, and OpTic will be added to the list of names that could not withstand the Team Liquid tide, and Liquid will finish Week 3 undefeated.
The 6-0, revenge, a dish best served cold, but Team Liquid say, nope, here it is, nice and warm. 3-0-10 for Jensen, 2-4-2 for Crown. Right there, Crown not able to get his, but DoubleLift finally able to get his.
Both solo laners on Liquid did not die. Both of them, great performance this game. DoubleLift just farmed up, made it so he was that big cannon in the team fights later on. And again, big props to CoreJJ for setting things up. A game like that stays so close and then just explodes, you always go back and you say, well, what was the breaking point?
Oh, yeah.
What was the moment where the game went from close to not close? And that moment is CoreJJ headbutting Crown.
And CoreJJ had so many good plays in this game that were just barely stopped by either Big or Meteos. And I have to look at that and applaud him, because this is not a KDA support by any means necessary. It's not usually a KDA player playing support in the first place, but he is throwing himself at things in front of Jensen, flashing to the blast cone to blast them both off, and then just make sure that he's the one in front. He does that consistently, and he is throwing himself out there. His scoreline won't look as good, but he is doing a ton of work to keep his allies alive.
Very scary team for Team Liquid. Unfortunately for OpTic, the debut of that starting roster will begin with a 0-2 week, so plenty of work still left to do for this team, of course. the bit of comfort that you can take from that is you did go up against Liquid. I mean, this is a team that no one else has figured out how to beat yet either.
Yeah, it's definitely an improvement from yesterday as well. Against Golden Guardians, they were kind of all over the place. Golden Guardians got their first win off of them with the Karthus mid from Froggen, and here you're looking at them going against the #1 team that nobody's figured out how to beat, right? So it is definitely an improvement from Saturday to Sunday. It's just, what is this team going to look like with more practice, because Arrow is finally back in the country.
Well, that #1 team keeps bringing it, and Avali is standing by with Jensen to hear about their 6th consecutive victory.
Thanks, guys. Jensen, congratulations on the win. But with this game, you guys had a little bit of a slower start. Where were you guys stumbling?
I think it was just they played really well around mid lane. It was really hard to get an advantage because I got put behind early game from a freeze, and they had a better mid contest with Braum, Gragas, and Syndra. So we were actually weaker around mid, so it was really hard for us to contest them, and they played it really well early on. So we kind of just had to play the slow game and like just scale, and then eventually just win out in team fights.
Well, putting this game aside, you guys are 6-0 right now, and this is the strongest start to a split that Team Liquid has ever had. So what about this team and what about this roster is making you guys unstoppable?
That's a good question. I think it's just everyone really knows how to play their role and do the right thing. We're always on the same page for the most part, so we don't really have any big misplays or anything. So I think we just synergize really well together, and everyone is like really experienced, so we don't have a lot of like mistakes in the game. So I think we just work well together because of that.
And at 6-0, you guys are about a third of the way to having an undefeated split. Are you and the team feeling any pressure of trying to accomplish that?
I mean, I think it would be cool to go undefeated, but I don't think it's really something that we're like, I mean, we're aiming for it obviously, but I think it would be really hard to go 18-0 because it's best of 1, so anything can really happen. And as you could see in this game was kind of close. If we made a few more mistakes, we might have lost this one. So, I mean, it would be cool to go 18-0, but I think we're just looking at, playoffs and just, international tournaments. We just want to learn as much as possible, and if a loss costs it, then it's okay, I think.
Well, Jensen, thank you so much, and who knows, maybe that 18-0 is in your guys' future. That's it for us here. Back to the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you, Avali. The win streak continues for Team Liquid, 6-0 now, but like yesterday, they looked challenged in the early game, about until that 25-minute mark, when all of a sudden team fights start happening and TL steamrolls the competition. So I want to talk about this squad and how it is that they kind of, put these wins together from maybe a precarious position to all of a sudden having full control of the game.
Well, I'll tell you something that's great for them is the Cassio pick. I don't know why they got it again. They're obviously a mid to late game team fighting focused team. And then they get this champion that has been banned every single time except the 2 games that they have been able to pick it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Cassiopeia is the most banned champion across the world for multiple weeks in all leagues. And then here in North America, Team Liquid is the only team that gets it. Plus, it's a perfect fit for Jensen and how Team Liquid want to play the game, right? It's the classic Team Liquid, have very strong front line with hard engage. DoubleLift and Jensen are 2 of the most reliable late game carries in the entire league. So then they just set up their team like that, and that's how you produce wins like this that aren't necessarily super fast wins and crushing early on, but through their side wave management, Impact usually gets a bit of a CS lead as well. They collapse for team fights very well, and then they execute on those teams.
I just can't imagine a Lucian ban was more necessary than the Cassio ban. I think that's a big mistake on OpTic's part.
Right, the only other time we saw it was that first game of the split for Team Liquid, 10-2-7 on the Cassiopeia that time around. Another impressive scoreline for Jensen here. We did hear him talk about how it kind of caused them to have a weaker middle portion of the map, and that's where OpTic was able to put some advantages together early, but it wasn't enough once again to kind of steamroll through. 20 CS advantage, maybe 1 or 2 kills. It's not enough to dig the grave for Team Liquid.
No, but I think you still saw a lot of positive things for OpTic in this early mid game. Big in particular, with the swaps that come in, some people were saying, what are these new guys doing? The Academy, quote unquote, roster is doing really well, but Big was always known for his shot calling and vision control, working with Meteos there to get deep wards early on, and then that allows them to find 2 pickoffs. You get CoreJJ in rotation and kind of bait a fight in the bot lane, which is going to start this kind of mid game, I wouldn't call snowball, but some of the advantages that they're able to collect.
Yeah, I mean, we saw a couple of replays here where they're placing the wards, and then this is where they reap the rewards of those of that vision that they've placed much deeper. Meteos and Big come on down. They know exactly where Team Liquid are trying to make the play. They get their first blood money. They cash in here.
Same 2 wards there, picking him up this time around. So
right, and
really.
yeah, OpTic goes on to the Baron, and Xmithie thinks, all right, well, they're getting Baron, I'll get red buff. But Crown, knowing that he's there, knowing that no one else is around Xmithie, that's a free kill.
So it's why the casters always talking about vision, you know, and people hear it repeated, oh, they're going for wards, going for wards. These deep ones that see jungle camps are especially important because they let you set up your play so much further in advance.
I was going to say, that's the big thing, right? A lot of people have this idea that, well, wards need to be placed in the immediate vicinity. That's what's going to keep me safe from, say, a gank. But it's having that lead time to then get someone in position to respond where you can actually capitalize and build an advantage off of an aggressive move that the opponent's making.
Yeah, I also, one thing after this game, you know, we were all talking as well, and Ovely brought it up in the interview, was about the Team Liquid, you know, when will they lose? I thought Jensen had a super cool answer where he kind of referred to something that Team Liquid talked about last split, where they were testing things on stage, and he's like, you know what? We're really focused on international play. If we drop a game due to, you know, trying something on stage, then, you know, that wouldn't be the 18-0 season for them. But that is the goal, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and to some degree, that becomes an acceptable loss if it's in service of improvement, you know, when it comes to the international scene.
I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's looking at this team for the international success, but that doesn't mean I'm not interested in their North American success, because I was looking at this team saying, like, what is the most dominant team in North American history, and are these guys potentially up on that lineup? Because you think of C9 in 2013 when they were 25-3 or something like that, and the 17-1 Immortals. Are they in that category or starting to put themselves there?
I mean, it's a good question, right? And that's where I do want to dive right back into the game and take a look at some of those moments where they do seem so far superior to other teams, and that is the team fight phase.
Exactly. This is what we always give, you know, the praise for Team Liquid. Teleport comes in. Previous to this, there were a lot of cooldowns blown, and they're able to evade a lot of these big ones. The key here was Dhokla wasn't able to land the Sion ultimate, and then he was stuck right next to the Cassiopeia, who is a huge DPS machine, chases him all the way out. The rest of OpTic try and jump in to save the Sion, just causing 3 more deaths.
And this is the thing, is like their team fighting is so dominant, but they're not this early game team. It feels like come 25 minutes, Team Liquid will find a fight, they'll kill you, and they'll get Baron. And it's such a different style, the fact that it's so much more mid-game focused than early game focused than what we've seen out of the best teams in North American history.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things. If teams are going to give you Cassiopeia, which is one of the most banned champions right now,
globally,
then you're going to play to that style as well. So even if Team Liquid was like, okay, you know, maybe we want to try something else on stage, they're handed, you know, one of the best backliners right now. So just build your front line and, you know, play.
Right, because to your point, Mark, you know, you could compare them to Immortals where they're crushing, you know, teams in anywhere from 18 to 23 minutes and go, well, why isn't Team Liquid winning that fast? There's no way you could call them as dominant. But hey, if it's just the guaranteed surefire way to win is take these high priority picks that, yes, need to scale to the late game, it almost makes it more impressive that they're not falling down further in the early game with 2 scaling, you know, damage dealers saying, hey, we actually have to stem any bleeding, any hemorrhaging that might happen in the early game and ensure that our carries in Jensen and DoubleLift can get to that point where they start steamrolling fights.
Yeah, and it's not just the laners, too. Like, Xmithie had been playing Lee Sin, but as a bridge champion, not going for super aggro snowball Lee Sin plays. Same with CoreJJ on the Alistar. Like, still very good player, but like was not going for the insane, like super early game, like flash headbutt pull people to an early gank.
Well, TL took a couple punches, but they're still looking close to unstoppable here. Time for another break. Make sure to cast your vote in chat again, this time for what Big will draw in Lolestrations on LCS Cooldown. Spam chat. Meet us back here for TSM.